Welcome back. This is Brittany. We're going to go through creating and rehearsing step 7. We're almost through all the steps with breaking the habit of being yourself and how to do this meditation. So week 4 will be a bit different from the previous weeks. First, as you read and write for step 7, you will receive knowledge about creating and instruction on the how-to process of using mental rehearsal. Then you'll read the guided mental rehearsal meditation to follow and to familiarize yourself with this new process. Next, it's time to do what you've learned. Every day this week, you will practice the week 4 meditation, which includes steps 1 through 7. As you listen, you will apply the focused attention and repetition you have employed to create the new you and your new destiny. I just caught myself thinking like, man, this is time consuming, doing this every single day. It's like going to take an hour or two, maybe even longer if it's like brand new and if you're really thinking through the steps. But think about how it's taken, you've spent however old you are, insert number there, that many years becoming yourself, years, and kind of like in this passive subconscious way. So now it's like to actually cognitively change it, it's going to require a little bit of time, like a couple hours a day. Isn't that not worth it to have a totally different future? So anyway, I caught myself thinking that and had to shut it down. Overview, creating and rehearsing the new you. Before you begin the final series of steps, I want to point out that the preceding steps were all designed to help you break the habit of being yourself so that you can make room both consciously and energetically for reinventing a new self. Up until this point, you've worked at pruning away old synaptic connections. Now it's time to sprout new ones so that the new mind you create will become the platform of who you will be in your future. Your previous efforts have facilitated unlearning some things about your old self. You've weeded out many aspects of the old you. You've become familiar with your unconscious states of mind that represent how you thought and behaved and felt. Through the practice of metacognition, you've consciously observed the routine, habitual ways your brain fired within the box of your former personality. The skill of self-reflection has allowed you to separate your free-willed consciousness from the automatic programs that caused your brain to fire in the exact same sequences, patterns, and combinations. You've examined how your brain has probably been working for years now, since the working definition of the mind is the brain in action, you've objectively looked at your limited mind, creating the new you. Now that you are beginning to lose your mind, it's time to create a new one. Let's begin to plant a new you. Your daily meditations, contemplations, and rehearsals will be like tending to a garden to yield a greater expression of you. Learning new information and reading about great people in history who represent your new ideal is like sowing the seeds. Could he be? It's like he knows about seed, soil, water. Okay. The more creative you are in reinventing a new identity, the more diverse the fruits you will experience in your future. Your firm intention and conscious attention will be like water and sunlight for your dreams in your garden. As you emotionally rejoice in your new future before it is made manifest, you cast a safety net and fence protecting your vulnerable potential destiny from pests and difficult climactic conditions because your elevated energy shields your creation. And by falling in love with the vision of who you are becoming, you are nurturing the potential plants and fruit with a miracle fertilizer. Love is a higher frequency emotion than those survival emotions that allowed the weeds and pests to come in the first place. To eliminate the old and make way for the new is the process of transformation, rehearsing the new you. Next, it's time to practice creating a new mind over and over again until it begins to become familiar to you. As you know, the more you fire circuits together, the more you wire them into lasting relationships. And if you fire a series of thoughts related to a particular stream of consciousness, it will be easier to produce that same level of mind the time after that. Therefore, as you repeat the same frame of mind every day by mentally rehearsing a new ideal of self over time, it will become more routine, more familiar, more natural, more automatic, and more subconscious. You will begin to remember you as someone else. In the previous steps, you also unmemorized an emotion that was stored in your body mind. Now it's time to recondition your body to a new mind and signal your genes in new ways. Your goal in this final step is to master a new mind in the brain as well as the body. Thus, it becomes so familiar to you that you are able to reproduce the same level of being at will and make it look natural and easy. It's important that you memorize this new state of being by thinking in new ways. Equally relevant is to then memorize a new feeling in the body so that nothing in your outer world can move you from it. This is when you are ready to create a new future and then live in it. When you rehearse, you bring the new you out of nothing repeatedly and consistently so that you know how to call it up at will. Use imagination and invention to bring your new self into existence. In this step, you'll start by asking yourself some open-ended questions as you pose questions that cause you to speculate, to think in different ways than you typically think, and to entertain new possibilities. This turns on your frontal lobe. This entire contemplation process is the building method for making a new mind. You are creating the platform of the new self by forcing the brain to fire in novel ways. You're beginning to change your mind. Here's a writing opportunity. Please take time to write down your answers about the following questions, then review them, reflect on them, analyze them, and think about all the possibilities that your answers raise. So here's some questions to turn on your frontal lobe. What is the greatest ideal of myself? What would it be like to be? Who in history do I admire and how did they act? Who in my life do I know? Who in my life do I know who feels something? What would it take to think like this? Whom do I want to model? How would I be if I were? What would I say to myself if I were this person? How would I talk to others if I were changed? How or whom do I want to remind myself to be? Your personality consists of how you think, act, and feel. So I've grouped some questions to help you determine more specifically how you want your new self to conduct itself. Remember, when you come up with your own answers, then contemplate them, you are installing new hardware into your brain and signaling your genes to activate in new ways in your body. Feel free to continue to list your answers in your journal if you don't think you can mentally keep track of them. How do I want to think? How would this new person, my ideal person, think? What thoughts do I want to put my energy behind? What is my new attitude? What do I want to believe about me? How do I want to be perceived? What would I say to myself if I was this person? Girl, you are fire. How do I want to act? How would this person act? What would he or she do? How do I see myself behaving? How would I speak as this new expression of self? How do I want to feel? How would this new self be? What would I feel? What would my energy be like as this new ideal? When you meditate to create the new you, your job is to reproduce the same level of mind every day, to think and feel differently than you usually do. You should be able to repeat that same frame of mind at will and make it commonplace. Furthermore, you have to allow your body to feel that new feeling until you actually are that new person. In other words, you cannot get up as the same person who sat down. Transformation must occur in the here and now, and your energy should be different from when you started. If you get up as the same person feeling just as you did when you started, nothing has really happened. You still are the same identity. Therefore, if you say to yourself, I didn't feel it today, I'm too tired, I have too much to do, I'm busy, excuses, and so on. If you allow these sub-vocalizations to take the stage of the frontal lobe, you will invariably get up as the same personality. You must use your will, your intention, and sincerity to go beyond these urges of the body. You must recognize this banter and chatter as a fight by the old self for control. You must allow it to rebel, but then bring it back to the present moment, relax, and then start over again. And over time, it will begin to trust you to be the master again. It's funny, I keep itching my nose. I'm very aware of it. It's this freaking light. It makes my nose itch. It's weird. Rehearsing and memorize the new you. Now that you've contemplated your answers, it's time to rehearse them. Review how you will think, how you will act, how you will feel as your new ideal. Let's be clear here. I don't want you to become too mechanistic or rigid. This is a creative process. Allow yourself to be imaginative, free, and spontaneous. Don't force your answers to be one way or another. Don't try to go through your list in the same exact way during each meditative session. There are many different means to arrive at your end. Just think about the greatest expression of yourself and then remind yourself how you will act. What will you say? How will you walk? How will you breathe? How will you feel if you become the person, that person? What will you say to others and to yourself? Your goal is to move into a state of being and become this ideal. For instance, think back to these piano players who mentally rehearsed piano exercises without touching any keys, how they achieved almost the same brain changes as people who physically played the same scales and chords for the same length of time. The mental players' daily rehearsal changed their brains to look like they had already had the experience of physically executing the activity. Their thoughts became their experience. If you recall the finger exercise experiment involving mental rehearsal, there were also significant physical changes demonstrated in the body without the subjects ever lifting a finger. In this step, your daily rehearsals will change your brain and your body to be ahead of time. That's why it's so important to rehearse, to bring up again how you will feel and how you will act as your new self. This is how you biologically change the brain and body to no longer live in the past, but rather to chart a map to the future. If the body and brain are changed, then there's physical evidence that you are changed, becoming very familiar with the new you. This part of step 7 is about making the leap to get the unconsciously skilled level of expertise. When you are unconsciously skilled at something, that means you just do it without having to place a great deal of conscious thought or attention on the activity. It's like going from a novice driver to an experienced one. It's like being able to knit without having to consciously will each of the actions into motion. It's like the old Nike ad slogan, you are just doing it. If you are getting bored around this point in the exercise, take that as a good sign. It means that your new mode of operation is beginning to become familiar, common, and automatic. You have to get to this juncture in order to hardwire and embody this information into your long-term memory. You must make an effort to go beyond your boredom, because each time you engage in your new ideal, you manage to be more of the new you with less effort. You engrave your new model of you into a memory system that then becomes more subconscious and natural. If you keep practicing it, you won't have to think about being it. You will have become it. Bottom line, practice makes perfect. You are training yourself in this process like any sport. If you are doing mental rehearsal correctly, then each time you practice, it should be easier for you to accomplish. Why? Because you're primed. You already have those circuits firing in tandem in your brain, and it's already warmed up. You also manufactured the right chemistry, and it's circulating in your body, selecting a new genetic expression. Your body is naturally in the right state. In addition, you have restrained and quieted down other brain regions connected to the old you. Consequently, the feelings that were associated with the old you are less likely to stimulate your body in the same inherent ways. Bear in mind that most of the mental rehearsal exercises that activate and grow new circuits in the brain involve learning knowledge, getting instruction, paying attention, and repeating the skill over and over. As you know, learning is making new connections. Instruction is teaching the body how to in order to create a new experience. Paying attention to what you are doing is absolutely necessary to rewire your brain, because it involves your being present to the stimuli, both physical and mental. And last, repetition fires and wires long-term relationships between nerve cells. These are all the ingredients that it takes to grow new circuits and make a new mind. That's huge. That's exciting. We literally have the whole recipe. And this is exactly what you're doing in your meditations. And repetition is what I want to emphasize here. Okay, we're not going to go through a story because I just don't got it in me to read somebody's story right now, but you can pause it and read it if you want to. I feel like we've really, really clearly emphasize this, that when you follow the things, you do it repeatedly, and you define what you want, and you visualize it, meditate on it, catch yourself when you're being not that, then here we go. So the next thing that's coming is that I'm actually going to create some amazing guides for you on the SeedSoilWater Spa sister channel. Link should be in the description box. Subscribe there. I'll create a whole playlist related to this. And like I said in previous videos, I'm going to underlay it with some physics, relevant physics informed frequency sounds to support the transformative moment. And it's going to be amazing. Give me a little bit of time if you're watching this when this is first released, because I have to create them, but it's going to be amazing, and I'm stoked, and I hope you use it over and over and over again. So be blessed, be well, be free.